Hi, beautiful people. Welcome to my Christmas Eve God is Grace special.
There's only one more sleep till Christmas.
This is my dear friend Lisa Kolostenko. We're gonna do a little question and answer for you guys.
Merry Christmas.
One of my earliest memories of Lisa is I was going through a divorce, so I was like all miserable, and then me and our other friend Lucy got a call from Lisa. She was all teary-eyed and was like, "Can you guys pick me up from work? I just got laid off." And it was very cliche, frankly. She was holding like a literal cardboard box full of like, was there a plant in it?
I think there was, and I was fully just hunched over, and I didn't have a car at the time. It was just traumatic.
Yeah. But since then, things have gotten much brighter because Lisa is a very resilient person, very self-motivated and determined. One of her first gigs that was super memorable was producing on The Voice. And this is like at the very beginning. I remember you being like, "It's a singing show," and I was like, "Another singing show, great." Like, I was not into it.
No,
I was like, "Good luck. Like, we need more singing shows."
Yeah.
But then what happened?
Producing had always kind of been on my mind, but I got this opportunity to work for an upcoming singing show that had CeeLo Green, Christina Aguilera, and that's really the only people they'd cast thus far. And in my mind, I thought, I'll just do this for 3 months. It's kind of like a stall tactic of like, while I figure it out, I can do this. But the minute I stepped on set, you could just feel this energy that this was going to be something really, really special. Mm-hmm. Like, you just knew by the level of investment of every single person on staff, like everybody was giving it 100%. It was such a beautiful storm of like all these different people bringing all their different skill sets to the table, and it ended up
Did it ever work out?
Yes.
So I have to say, a lot of Christians, especially on YouTube, vilify Hollywood and say it's like the devil's lair. So I want to know, like, do you do the devil worship before the show, after, during?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
We tend to do it before every live show.
Like Shelton leaves it. It's crazy. So not everyone in the industry is of the devil. What is your spiritual background that you were brought up in?
So I was born in Ukraine. So I grew up in a devout Eastern Orthodox family.
Say the rest in Russian.
Я родилась в Украине, я ходила в церкву каждое воскресенье, и мой папа пел в хоре.
Perfect. I wanted to come to Lisa's house because on today's podcast, I'm interviewing Isabella Frappier. She is a beautiful woman living in Los Angeles, and she talks a lot about sexual healing and sexual therapy. And one of our main focuses in our conversation was on sexual shame surrounding pleasure. A lot of times Christians equate pleasure and sensuality and sexuality to sin and something very bad. And one of the main tips Isabella gave was that if you're not comfortable with pleasure, that you can start by just figuring out how to have a more sensual life. And this is why I chose Lisa for this Q&A to accompany that podcast, because Lisa lives a very sensual life. What is sensuality to you?
Sensuality is a focus on the senses. So I love being in a surrounding where things smell nice, things feel really good.
And would you say it takes a lot of money to live a sensual life?
No, absolutely not. I feel like there are so many simple pleasures, and I would argue that the more things you accumulate, you're getting further and further away from living a sensual life. It's more sort of about taking care of yourself and putting time and energy into your surrounding. So just really simple things, like even if you get, flowers at Trader Joe's or something, it's $6, but now you have fresh cut flowers and arranging them a certain way, or taking the time to cook a meal is going to be less expensive than eating out, and then suddenly your whole home is filled with yummy smelling things and you can serve it to people you love.
Yeah, I love that. And another thing I think is so interesting about you is we are both single girls in Los Angeles, which is not an easy experience, especially now that we have dating apps and Tinder and all of this nonsense. Dating has gotten very difficult. People treat relationships often like they're very dispensable, and it's difficult to navigate that world. So Lisa's been very inspiring for me and a lot of our friends in just really cultivating a romance in her life. I always feel like my relationship with God is very romantic. Like if I put the window down in my car and I feel the hair like blowing in the wind, it feels like I imagine God's fingertips going through my hair.
Oh, I love that.
Like, is that nerdy?
No, that completely resonates with me.
So for our little holiday sensuality special, Lisa's gonna ask me some of your questions you guys submitted.
Perry Lynn asks, Hi Perry Lynn. How can I start praying again? I feel very disconnected from God and I'm struggling to find a way to find that connection again. I deeply miss that kind of connection I felt as a child. Do you have any tips for this? Also, do you have any suggestions surrounding feeling at home in the church? As a more liberal-leaning Christian, I often find that I feel very ostracized since I'm gay, a feminist, and a believer.
As far as prayer, I think that that's a perfect question for the environment we're in right now, because I see it as a very sensual experience. A lot of times Christians demonize the idea of being in the flesh and rejecting fleshly desires, and I agree with that to some extent if you're doing harm, obviously, but when you're in prayer, when you're living on planet Earth, it is about the senses. We are living in these bodies. Our spirits reside in this space, in this flesh. And I think a beautiful way to learn how to pray is to really engage in those senses, take a warm bath, and really revel in the fact that God has created these things. Smell a beautiful candle and like figure out where it takes your imagination. Write poetry, read poetry, listen to beautiful music, classical music, things that don't really like take you away, and just reside. A lot of spiritual leaders talk about prayer being you just being in your body and engaging, just waiting for answers, being still and quiet. Prayer is something I do all day, every day, and I think you can cultivate that by just realizing there's no rules. You don't have to be praying in a certain position. You don't have to be in a certain building. As far as being a gay Christian feminist, that sounds like a very difficult place to be in. And I would have to be honest and say that I don't promote any of you guys staying in spaces that are remotely abusive to you. So I don't know what the situation is exactly. If you're going to church and you feel at home and you feel surrounded by love, and you being a gay feminist is like this thing that people think is quirky, that maybe you have to fix or work on, but they're not harping on you, then maybe you're still safe in that place, and you can look at other resources such as staying here in the God is Grey community and listening to podcasts of people that like do affirm your lifestyle, that do make you feel like you can be a feminist and a Christian and gay. And on the other hand, if they are at all abusive to you or harping every single Sunday on your sexuality, on your feminism, I have to say, get out. I would not advocate for you staying in an environment that harms you. And I really don't believe God would advocate it either. Let's do a couple more.
Right. Evie, I'm sorry if that's not how you say your name. Evie Coco.
Hi, Evie Coco. Evie Coco.
Evie? Hello.
Hi.
Hey, girl.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, girl.
How has your family received your spiritual evolution? Like, for example, if you were open to your family about your God is Grey view, did they ridicule you or accept you? By the way, you can show my name if it appears in a video. I don't mind.
Oh, yay. We'll definitely show your name. I love this question because I'm actually going to go home for Christmas and I'm going to interview my dad on the podcast because he has always been my number one fan, my number one advocate, but with Trump and with my views becoming more progressive and liberal and out there, we have had some issues in our relationship. And we've been fighting about whether or not being gay is a sin since I was like 12 years old. So we've been on this journey for a while. It's scary to change your beliefs, to progress in any way, to do something out of the box. And as you guys see in the comments, there's still people that condemn me to hell, so it's nothing new. But my dad has read all of your comments, and that has completely changed his mind. It's not that he thinks I'm right about everything, far from that, but he does think that God is Gray is very positive, and that the community we're creating here is affirming you guys in so many different ways. He loves when any of you say, I was walking away from God and you're making me feel like I can come back. Or I'm gay and I didn't think God loved me, but now I know he does. My dad loves those comments. So it's all because of you guys, honestly, that our relationship is back on track. And I'm going to do a podcast with him when I'm home so we can share a little bit more about the trouble we've had in our relationship and where we are now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh. Well, we love you guys. Happy Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here with our Q&A. We love you guys.
Yeah, we love you. Merry Christmas.
God bless.